Today, we're going to be doing an AimHi lesson on why James and the Giant Peach is propaganda. Welcome to everybody. I've got a question up going here, but I might just get my face here. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Wilcox. I got a haircut. It's still the same guy. Let me know in the chat what you think of the haircut. Do you hate it? Do you not hate it? Get Out of the Free said, "Ooh, damn, he got that haircut." I did. I still got to grow into it. You know, when you're in that like Shaun Sheep stage and you're still not sure. But anyway, thanks, Jeff. It's cool that the haircut is peng. Is that some sort of like Kiwi expression, peng? I don't know. Let me know. That's not the main question though. We're here to discuss whether James and the Giant Peach is propaganda. And we're going to start off with this image. I want you to see if you can answer this question for me. Why are these roofs blue? What do you reckon? Why are these roofs blue? Peng means good looking. All right, I'll take that. Why are these roofs blue? What do you reckon, guys? Thank you for the ego lift, the little lift in my confidence you just gave me now. Thank you, appreciate it. Why are these roofs blue? MLP Whale said they are old. Jeff is Cooler said it's in North Korea. Good observation. Did you see that from this from the little flag? The little flag over here. Or at least one of them is. No, they're both in North Korea. It's the same. They're the same roofs, the same sort, or the same city. NZ Catherine said, "How on time are you guys?" Yeah, we're running a tight ship here. NZ Catherine. OMHNPH says because it looks nice. Yes, that's part of the reason. Actually, these roofs were made to be blue intentionally to look nice. I think they look nice. Do you think they look nice? I think they do look nice. Yes, NZ Catherine, so they stand out. Yes, maybe it's the materials available. Is it to reflect sunlight? Big Mass Boss Mass said propaganda. Yes, it is propaganda. That's what we're going to be discussing today. It is North Korean propaganda, not just a little leaflet or a slogan. This propaganda was a whole town built by North Korea, and the town is Kyeongdong, right on the border of North Korea and South Korea. And it was built as an attractive, beautiful town deliberately with eye-catching uniform blue roofs in the 1950s to try and convince people from South Korea to look over the border and go, hey, maybe I want to defect and like move over to North Korea. Maybe that'll be fun. These blue roofs essentially were propaganda. We're going to be looking at propaganda a little bit today. And, ooh, nice. Got that nationalism popping off. Thanks, Get Out of the Freezer. Yes, we do. We're not going to be talking too much about nationalism today, maybe a little bit, but we will be talking about how propaganda might be sneakily everywhere in our world, particularly maybe in James and the Giant Peach, which I love. It's one of my favorite books. So let's get stuck into James and the Giant Peach. Here we go. What do you remember from this book? I read this book real recently. I love it. It was one of my favorite books growing up. But what do you remember? Like, what happens in this book? Let me know. Oh, yes. That's a great question. What does propaganda mean? Why don't we just, we'll get to that a little bit later. But Josh GN, that's a great question. Jeff is Cooler is kind of right, but we're going to expand upon that. Kieran White said, "Hey, yo, sorry I'm late." That's how I imagine he speaks. What do you guys know about James and the Giant Peach? What do you remember? Have you read it? Have you not? Did you like it? Did you not? What's it about? It's about a boy called James and some insects traveling in a peach. That's right, Olive 2008. Wasn't Roald Dahl like anti-Semitic or something? Roald Dahl had a lot of problems. Yes, he did. His parents die and then he finds a big peach. These are all right things. You guys are getting it. Roald Dahl wrote this book, James and the Giant Peach. A few details about this book. One, if you want, you can go online and hear Taika Waititi, the director of like Thor Ragnarok and Boy and like what was uh, What We Do in the Shadows, some other films. He's doing a live reading with like Chris Hemsworth, Kate Blanchett, a whole bunch of celebrity friends. And you can tune in on that. I think it's happening like twice a week. Really fun. Maybe I'll link the details below on the chat at the end of this. But some facts about James and the Giant Peach, one of Roald Dahl's first published books. It was banned initially for inappropriate content. There was some smoking and some drinking in it, and some people thought, actually, we're going to ban it. But that didn't deter it, because it was his most popular book, except for one other book which was more popular. What do you think the more popular book that he wrote was? Let me know. What do you reckon? Oh, Jojo Rabbit. That's right. He directed Jojo Rabbit. Thanks, Mers91. Oh, Get Out of the Freezer says, I've been watching that. It's really good. You've been going along doing the readings with Taika Waititi? That's awesome. People are saying, was it Matilda? Was it BFG? Was it the Twits? It wasn't. It was Get Out of the Freezer, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Well done. Get Out of the Freezer. It was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But this was his second most popular one, and it was probably popular for good reason. We're just going to quickly go just a little bit of a rapid fire summary of what happens. You might have remembered this from a previous session. This is the hero's journey. We're going to use this really quickly to work out how this book is written. I'm going to set myself a challenge. I'm going to set myself the challenge of how long it takes. I'm going to do the summary of this book with... All right, I'm going to do a little call out here. This is a bit of a bold thing. I'm going to say, can you please describe to me the craziest thing that's happened to you? And by the time I finish this, I want everyone to have described the craziest thing that's happened to them. And I'm going to do that super fast. So here we go. Your time starts now. Write your craziest thing that's ever happened to you and put it down in the chat line. Okay, so firstly, it starts with a call to adventure. This here is James. He's called to adventure. He looks out at the ocean. He's an orphan. He's been taken in by his evil aunties. And he looks out at the ocean and he wonders, what could be more? Then all of a sudden, this supernatural aid comes to him. This old man with some magic kind of green things says, hey, great things are going to happen if you take these and you plant them in the ground. But unfortunately, he messes it up and they escape. But they escape into a tree, but all the trees have been knocked down by his evil aunts, and all the insects have been knocked out with pesticide, except there's this one tree. It's a peach tree. There's no peaches on it, except these green things enter the tree, and then they make this peach grow massive and giant. And he crosses the threshold, and he pushes into the peach, and he climbs into a tunnel. He crosses the threshold, and he meets a whole host of giant insects, centipede, silkworm, all these big giant insects. And then all of a sudden, it grows and grows and grows and grows so much that it rolls down the hill, being snapped off by the centipede, and it crushes his evil aunts, Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge, one skinny, one fat, and it goes into the ocean. But there's a road of trials. There's a whole things that he encounters. One of them is sharks eating the peach, and they think it's sinking, but actually the sharks aren't doing that much damage to it. One of the centipede falls off, and then James has to rescue it. Then all of a sudden he realizes, actually, if we can get airborne, then maybe we can escape the ocean. So he catches seagulls with some rope, and then he floats the peach up in the air. Then there's an approach to a big climax, and that is the approach of a storm coming, but it's not actually a storm. They're cloudmen up in the sky, and the cloudmen are throwing snow and ice at him. Oh no, what is he gonna do? It looks like they're gonna crash. It looks like the peach is gonna go down, but no. James manages to find a way to say, let's not be violent to them, let's go past them, let's not be violent, and then they're rewarded by this giant rainbow. But then with the storm from the cloudmen, it pushes them all the way across the ocean at super fast speed. So they went from England and they come all the way back, and their return is to New York City. They hover above New York City, and everyone's going, what's going on? What's going on up there? What's going on? The biggest city in the world at the time. And then all of a sudden, they crash down. All of a sudden, their peach falls down and then lands onto the tippy top of the tallest building in the world, which is the Empire State Building at that time. And then they're trapped there. That's their resurrection. They were saved. And then the resolution is everyone thinks that James and his giant insect friends are heroes, and they're given a big parade. All the peach is shared around, and James, who was an orphan who didn't have any friends who wanted adventure, actually comes full circle back to his status quo. He now has friends, and people come and visit him in his peach pit home in Central Park, which he made out of the giant peach pit, and he shares peach with them and shares stories with them. And that is the story. All right, did everyone put their craziest story, things that ever happened? Okay. Whew. Oh, I don't know, when a spider jumped on me, almost fell off a cliff. I want you to... Oh, that's a pretty full-on story. Get out of the freezer. I was once dreaming that my brother would hurt himself, and then I woke up and my brother was crying because he hit his arm on the bed. Are you psychic? That's crazy. All right. Some great story. That was a great summary. I did not remember the story. I'm glad I did it, and I made it really quick. I want to read some more of those crazy things that happen to you. You guys have wild lives. All right, we're going to see why this story then is propaganda. Okay, so when we have something like a book or a movie or a poem, we call it a text. And then we read or we view that text. But with these two things in this image here, what's missing? Let me know what's missing. What do you reckon? Big Mass Boss said, typical propaganda, mate. We don't stand that over here. I like it. I like it. The message. Mers91 said the message. Ooh, I like that. It could be the message, but how do we get the message? What is the message that the text is saying? What is it? Oh, a common sense? Matthew's on the line. Matthew Shribman, he said, the thing that's missing is a filter. Yes, that is very interesting. I mean, it's a little bit of a trick question because in this picture, I put a bit of a filter. I gave a little magnifying glass. I was searching for the word there. So yes, when we have a text and we have ourselves, that's good, but always we read or view that text with a filter. And in a way, it's a bit like this thing. Does anyone know what this thing here is? An inverterscope? Let me know if you know what an inverterscope is. Oh, Get Out of the Freezer said, makes you see upside down. Yes, it does make you see upside down. An inverterscope, and maybe someone in the chat knows how they work. But I've heard they're very, very complicated, and they are a lens that makes you see something, but in a slightly different way. And in a way, we're going to be looking about the inverterscopes of viewing texts, viewing James and the Giant Peach. So what we call this in English is we call this literary theory. So we have the book, which is the text, but then our literary theory is going to be a different way, a filter, like Matthew said, or a lens or an inverterscope of seeing the text. Okay. Big Mass Boss Mass has got some great lines. Yeah, easy physics. Let's have a look about how we're going to do that. So literary critical theory can be all types of literary critical theory. We don't need to worry about all of these. You can do some literary theory on how is a text political, how is a text metaphorical, what is a feminist reading of a text. We're going to be looking at two types of literary theory today and applying it to James and the Giant Peach. And these are Marxism and environmentalism. Now, here's a question for you guys in the chat. Who's hot and who's not? Or are they both hot? Who wore it best? Karl Marx or Matthew Shribman? We got Marxism and environmentalism here. What do you guys reckon? Oh, I think Matthew got back to us with how inverterscopes work. He said, if you keep them on for long enough, your mind corrects for them and you start to see normally again. Taking them off means everything is upside down again, being through that cycle far too many times. Interesting. I like that. All right, a lot of love for Karl Marx. I'm sorry, Shribman. Looks like he's the hot boy here. I think you're looking very, very good in that vest, though. So we have Marxism and we have environmentalism. These are two ways of viewing a text. And don't worry if you don't know what those are. I certainly didn't know what these were until late on in high school, but maybe you already do, and that's cool too. We're going to explore, first of all, I needed to really resize my slides here. I'm so sorry, guys. We're going to have a look here at Marxism. In Marxism, I might see if I can move this a little bit. In Marxism, there are two types of people. Two people groups that often Marx talked about. Let's ignore the right-hand side for a second. He thought that there was a proletariat, which are the workers, and there was a bourgeoisie, and these were the people who controlled or ruled over the workers. And actually that the bourgeoisie controlled not just the workers, but controlled everything around how their lives were. And that if the workers or the proletariat wanted to have a better life, they needed to make sure they seized control. Now, he had a sort of a way of describing this, which was there are two things, main things in society. There was the nitty-gritty things in life, which is factories, how things are made, and he called that the base. And then he thought there was something above that, which was, and he called it the superstructure. And the superstructure was everything that were the ideas that legitimized what happened in the base. So for instance, if you had the base, it might have the workers in China making Apple iPhones. That would be the base. But the superstructure would be the ideology of think different, and maybe what I need is this individualism, this thing that has great design and technology which sets me apart. That would be the superstructure, which justifies the base, but then the base needs to be made, and all the new products that get made kind of influence the superstructure as well. And these will kind of like overlap like this. He liked to define terms in kind of like stark economic realities, like people need to eat and people are restricted in how they can eat if they're getting oppressed by people above them. He thought that these were the means of production, the people who control how everything works, how all the factories run, how all the food is made, how all the work gets done, the means of production. Who controls that wins. So if you wanted to get ahead, you needed to control the means of production. Okay, this is Marx's viewpoint. Environmentalism. Environmentalism, here's a question for everyone out there. What's your favorite thing about environmentalism? You might know about environmentalism. Let me know. What's your favorite thing about environmentalism? Oh, a lot of late love for Matt being hotter. Matt is way hotter. What do you reckon? What here? The birds work for the bourgeoisie. Ooh, very deep. What's your favorite thing about environmentalism? The Matt in the bottom left is so funny. I think it's really cute. Really cute. As you're answering, let me tell you one of my favorite things about environmentalism. One of my favorite things about environmentalism is realizing that maybe humans are important, but maybe we're not like the only thing out there, and we need to not be so selfish and think just about our species, but maybe we should think about the whole world. That's my favorite thing about environmentalism. Let me know what you think. Environmentalism is just the belief that we need to care about the environment, and we've only kind of got this one Earth, and it sustains life, and maybe we shouldn't be so horrible in how we treat it and how we treat others, and that if we live with balance, then maybe we can live sustainably. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of you on the line who love that as well. But let's see if anyone knows what this film is. Does anyone remember the film, what this film is? Can you tell me what this film is? And secondly, little explanation about environmentalism. If you were an environmentalist, how might you interpret this film? Okay, so a lot of people have jumped in with Avatar. Yes, it is Avatar. All right. Now, how would someone who's an environmentalist, how would they interpret Avatar? What would they think is the message of Avatar if you were concerned about the environment? This is a pretty tricky question. Someone said, I like this. Don't destroy nature. Yes, I like that, Lecture Bros. Preserve other species. Yes. So you have the alien species here that the humans are trying to kind of get away from this precious metal that lives on their planet, and they're sort of waging war against them. And then it turns badly because Mother Nature fights back. You could also say like the humans are very greedy, but actually if they were to be at one with the environment, which is what one of the humans does in by becoming an avatar and entering into their world, then maybe we could live a better, richer life. And so Catherine said, can't wait for the second and third Avatar. Hope they're as good as the first because they come so much later. That would be cool. I really liked Avatar, and actually Avatar is really interesting because you could read and you could watch Avatar and go, wow, that's a great action film. But also you could watch Avatar and go, this is a film that's actually sending me a message about how to treat the planet. And that would be an environmentalist lens, filter, literary theory reading of it. So here's a little experiment for you. This is, maybe you know what this is. Let me know if you know what this picture is in the chat. But we're going to call this Finlandia. A new continent emerges from the ocean, a big volcano. And no one's discovered it. No one's seen it. But all of a sudden, rapid fire, plants, animals, even people groups start organizing and settling on this island and start flourishing, and it flourishes and flourishes and flourishes, undiscovered, unknown for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Here's a challenge for you. If you are an environmentalist, what questions would you have for this island? What questions would you have, and what would you like to know about this island, this super island Finlandia? A lot of people think that the next avatars are going to be bad. Guys, they're not going to be as good as the first one. It's often the case, I reckon. That's my theory. Get Out of the Freezer said, is Phil the Overlord? Oh. What is it like without humans? Are you littering? Interesting questions. Okay, here's another thing. Now there are people groups there, and there is Phil Overlord, who is the ruler of Finlandia. What questions do you ask Phil the Overlord of Finlandia? What do you ask him about how he's organizing society on Finlandia? What are some questions you might ask Phil the Overlord? Are you sustaining the environment? Phil the Overlord says, when I feel like it. Why do you need the whole island though? I wanna rule over everything I see, and all I see is this island. Guys, I'm really touched by these questions here. I think you get it. I think if you are an environmentalist, you're gonna ask questions which are like concerned with the well-being of animals. If you're a Marxist, you're gonna ask questions with, how is Phil the Overlord organizing the people of this island? Is he exploiting them? Is he using their labor, and is he suppressing them? Is he taking all the riches for himself? That's what a Marxist would be asking. Political, social, economic questions, but environmentalists would be like, hey, what's Phil the Overlord doing about crabs? Is there a crab problem on the beaches of this island? I don't know. Okay, so different lenses for different things. All right, why is cake like literary theory? Why do you think cake is like literary theory? How much methane is being released? Thank you. Olive H 2008. I like crabs too. Why is cake like literary theory? Mers91 says it's tasty, it's delicious. Great one. It is good. Why else? Why would cake be like a lens that you apply to a text, a book, a TV show? What do you reckon? I've got a few things, and they relate to these pictures here. Picture 1, picture 2, and picture 3. Oh, Jeff is cooler with a great one. It can be cut up and interpreted differently. NZ Catherine said it is bliss and indulgent. It has lots of different types, and some people agree with it. And some people, you guys are coming up with better ones than I thought of. This is what I came up with. Why is cake like literary theory? That it adds a richness, like a rich chocolate cake, like this little rich chocolate cake here. It adds a richness to the text that wasn't already there. It also cake is about sharing. So yes, cutting it up and sharing it. And by sharing it, what you can do is you can have empathy or concern for the other person. You can bring people in. So if I see a worldview or a literary theory which has to do with environmentalism, and I haven't even thought about that idea for a text, all of a sudden it gives me empathy and starts me thinking, oh wait, I didn't even think of that point of view. That's a great point of view for that text. It builds empathy. But also this is a picture from Survivor All-Stars, and it was used as a reward for a challenge. But it can be used to manipulate people. It can be used to skew things, to change things. Propaganda. So we're going to go back to why James and the Giant Peach might be propaganda. Well, firstly, how does this relate to James and the Giant Peach? It relates to James and the Giant Peach because this is a story about Marxism. You have the proletariat, you have James over here, and James is oppressed by his aunties, who actually, when the peach grows, they actually make a profit. They make a profit. I don't know if you remember this, but in the book, if you've read the book, it grows so big that everyone comes from all around and they start charging tickets for it, and they make him work hard and hard and hard and not get any of the profits. He can't go out and see his friends. He doesn't even get nice cold lemonade. He just has to work. He's the proletariat, and they oppress him. But all of a sudden, that changes. There's a violent death. The peach rolls and grows to such a length that it crushes the aunties to death, and it goes out. But how might this image here be similar to an idea of violent revolution? Why might the peach landing on the Empire State Building be Marxist? Why might you think that would be the case? So one is obvious, right? One is the giant peach crushing the oppressors. But what about the one on top of the skyscraper? OMHNPH says it is a symbol of capitalism. Olive said that as well. Yes. The Empire State Building, the highest building in the world, is the symbol of capitalism, which is a fancy way of saying like the system that we use, which is all about getting money. It's the big sister, the big tower, and it lands right on top. And it's like saying, boom, I am bigger and more important than you. I'm at the top of you. And it's very symbolic. It's very symbolic. And then at the end, James shares his peach with all the boys and girls around. How would a Marxist interpret the sharing of that? How might a Marxist interpret the sharing of that? Get Out of the Free says, shows the workers triumphing over their oppressors. Yes, I think that's right. I don't know if you were saying that for the tower one or this one, but I think they both work. Yes, it's a redistribution of wealth and a seizing the means of production. Now, similarly, how might Matthew Shribman interpret James and the Giant Peach? Look, we can't go into this too much. We've gone into Marxism, we're running out of time, but very quickly, there's so much in here that's an environmental approach. The aunties were nasty, trying to eliminate all the bugs in the garden, but the bugs grew to such a size, and the peach grew, and all of a sudden nature was triumphing over human progress with the peach on top of the tower. It was nature fighting back, but also nature and humanity working in conjunction together, with the seagulls lifting the peach, all of that. And when you work in harmony with the clouds or the cloud men, good things happen, a nice rainbow. An environmentalist reading of James and the Giant Peach would say, look after the world, and maybe it will look after us. Here's a little challenge for you guys. I'm going to finish this here, but before we do, how might Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs be interpreted by a Marxist or an environmentalist? I want you to choose one of those. And I would love, I'm going to ask on our next live, I'm going to ask, did anyone have any good ideas of how might Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs be interpreted by a Marxist or an environmentalist? I want you to apply this to a well-known story and have think about what elements of that story would they pick up, and would they read of that story? Let me know what you think. Guys, it's really exciting when we have texts and then we have ways of seeing text. We can see things that we wouldn't normally see. Our invertoscope, our lens. So thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your chat. My name's Phil Wilcox. Never trust a poet. Signing off.